How to overcome the top 5 seller objections in wholesaling real estate. Guys, my name is Rick Ginn, and today I'm going to walk you through my 21 years experience of how to overcome the most common objections and, most importantly, how to respond to them. But before I get into it, do me a favor, make sure you smash that like button, hit that subscribe button so you continue to receive the best information on wholesaling today. Now, I've boiled down most sellers' objections in wholesaling to 5 simple categories. And why? Because I have met with tens of thousands of sellers, and honestly, after a while, once you know how to address the objection, it's actually really easy and your confidence goes way up. So do me a favor, take a few notes while you watch this, and I want you to learn. And honestly, if you learn the techniques I teach you today, it will help you be a more confident, productive, and most important, successful wholesaler. So I have no order that these go in because they come up so randomly when you talk to sellers, and you won't know either. So I just want you to learn how to identify them. So the first one is the proof of funds, better known as POF. And they'll say, Rick, I need, for me to move forward with this agreement, I need a full proof of funds. And honestly, a lot of you guys look like deer in the headlights. The more you stall and the more you pause in this situation, the less credibility you're going to get. So we have to sort this out. So number one, depending on what situation you're in, you have to identify it. If you're young and you're broke, just be brutally honest with yourself, and you're going to have to figure this out. So if I don't have any money, I know I'm going to have to go out and get a robust cash buyers list. Why? Because I need to get their proof of funds so I can submit them to buy these properties. Now, not every seller is going to ask you for a proof of funds. In fact, most of you create this fear before it even happens. So if you are broke and you're starting out wholesaling, you don't have a lot of money, and you have to do a proof of funds, you should have a robust cash buyers list and ask them for permission to use that when a great deal pops up. Why? They're eventually going to be the buyer anyways, and you're going to have to prove your ability to buy the property. So if you're in that situation and you don't have anybody to help with, no one to rely on, then you can use your cash buyers proof of funds. And the reality is, sometimes your cash buyers, you can use a technique and actually use them as a partner. So a lot of times when I got started in wholesaling and I didn't have a lot of money, I would go to one of my cash buyers and ask to partner up with them if they could help me get through the realtor. And once in a blue moon, I had to deal with a realtor. I don't like dealing with them, but they put up the proof of funds, showed the bank statement, put everybody at ease, and I used my skill set to get the lowest price possible. You see, if you're prepared for the proof of funds, you know how to deal with it. If you're just going to wing it and wait till they hit you in a corner, you are going to get run under the bus. So prepare yourself. So if you don't have any money, that's option number one. Option number two, if you do have stable income, you do have good credit, and say you already have a full-time job, that's how I started out in real estate, is you can go to the bank, you can actually get a letter. So you can get a line of credit on a piece of property you already own. Maybe it's your own individual property, or you can actually get a loan qualification letter, and you can get that from a mortgage broker, from a bank, or whatever. And it says, hey, Richard Ginn has the ability to buy up to $350,000. A pre-approval letter for a loan, all they really look at is your income and your credit score and your debt to income ratio. And if you're of sound mind and you have that ability, maybe through another job or something, go ahead and use it. Remember, you have the ability, if you have credit and income, to qualify and technically take down any property. I know what you're saying, but Rick, we told them we're going to buy it cash. Did you know when you mark for a cash contract, you have the ability to actually use financing? Now, it's a rare case you would ever do it, but it solves your proof of funds. So if you already have a job and you have income and you have credit, go ahead and set those things up ahead of time. And I don't care if you're broke or you have money and you have credit, you have assets. Worst case scenario, you can go out and find a business partner that can actually help you do the proof of funds, or they can help you fund your deposits. Either way, I've just given you 4 ways around the proof of funds, but you guys have to prepare yourself. You can't wait till you get caught and you don't know how to respond. Prepare yourself now, decide which camp you're in, and form a formidable response so you know how to respond when a seller asks you for a proof of funds. Objection number 2 is what I call the third-party objection, and it goes just like this. Hey, Rick, I like what you're saying, but I need to run it by my attorney. Now, it can be attorney, it can be realtor, it can be broker, it can be my sister, my brother, whatever. But when this objection comes up, you have to try to figure out if it's a stall tactic or not. Now, here's a great tip that has worked wonders in my wholesaling business. Most people come back and say, hey, I got to run it by my attorney. Most of you go, okay, well, tell me when you're going to get back to me. That is not how you deal with it. So say, great, we have a deal in theory here. We agree on this price. You go through everything. And it basically goes, who's the attorney you work with? Shut your mouth. If they don't respond instantly, it usually means they're stalling or they have to go out and find an attorney, which is going to take forever. If they give you a name or anything like that, hey, can I just get his or her email and the phone number? And what I'll do is I'll just go ahead and forward the paperwork to them for you. You see, by doing this technique, you're actually calling them to the plate. And if they don't actually have an attorney, odds are they're never going to get an attorney. And you know how to deal with these people. You just have to solve what their issues are with you. But most people try to hide behind the attorney statement. So if you go, hey, Mr. Seller, that's great. Who's your attorney you deal with? Now, if you have an established attorney like I do, I can rattle off their name just like that. I can rattle all 4 of them off. But if most homeowners, very few of them ever deal with an attorney and they don't know what it is and it's just a stall tactic. So by asking that, you can open up and find out what the real problem is and say, listen, I kind of get it. You don't really have an attorney right now. What is the objection? What is most bothering you about this transaction? And deep dive. A lot of them use the attorney as a deflection. Your job is to find out if it's true. The best way is just ask them who their attorney is. If you get a long delayed response, they don't have an attorney and they're not going to take that step. They're just stalling on you. Now, if they do have an attorney, say, great. What you have to do is anchor your basic terms of your agreement with the seller. Mr. Seller, I'm buying the property for $150,000. We're going to close on it in 30 days. And this is the title company we're using. Are we in full agreement on those terms? Great. What I'll do is I'll just send the rest of the contract over to the attorney so he can review, the finer details. But as long as we're anchored on the price, the 30 days and the deposit, if the attorney has an opinion on the other stuff, I'll be open to hear it. That's it. See, because when the attorney goes back to the seller and goes, I don't like this price and stuff like that, you have already anchored the basic terms of your deal. And once the attorney understands that, when the seller comes back to you and the attorney attacks, I don't like this price, usually your seller will stand up for you and go, listen, I already agreed with Rick on that price, so I'm okay with that. Can you just look over the rest of the contract? So if you anchor your price in your basic terms, I'm not fearful to send it to an attorney. The reality is when you send it to the attorney, it usually takes a week or 2 for them to even respond, and most sellers get frustrated. And remember, I don't need the attorney's permission for anything. In the perfect world, I would never deal with an attorney. But sometimes you have to address this to make your sellers comfortable with you. The worst thing you can do is tell them not to involve the attorney because you freaked them out and they think you're a scam artist. So let them do it. Don't ever give them the contract to give the attorney. You forward it over to the attorney. That way you can figure out if they're actually telling you the truth. Now, let's go to objection number 3, and I call this the aggressive seller. I get this all the time. I think it's like a South Florida thing. Maybe it's the New York to South Florida thing, but the reality is sometimes we deal with people that are ultra aggressive with my sales staff, and even when I did the first 7 years of wholesaling. And this is here it goes. Hey, Rick, I got your letter. Just give me the price. Let's just cut it down to the grassroots taxes. What is the price? And they just start attacking. They don't even let you ask them a question other than your name. And this is the point where you have to decide, are you going to be a McDonald's order taker, meal 1, meal 2, meal 3? Or are you going to open this person up to get permission to pursue with your ability to qualify them? So if you follow their orders, you will never get a great wholesale deal. In fact, it'll be the worst deal you ever get, because if you're just going to attack price, you are going to be the worst option for them. So I simply use a technique like this. When they get super aggressive, just like I showed you, I said, Mr. Seller, listen, breathe for 1 second. Let me ask you this. Would you ever buy a car you never test drove? Oh, hell no, I'd never do that. Okay, well, you can't ask me just to give you a price with nothing else. In fact, if you will give me a moment to ask you a few questions about the property, I can give you the best offer up front. If I don't have any information, I just got to hit you with a low number. And I know that's not what you want to do. So do I have permission just to ask you a few numbers? That way I can give you the best offer possible. Boom. That's it. That's all you got to do. If you don't take control and you let them just keep yanking you all over the conversation, you're literally wasting your time. I've never gotten a deal from a seller like that. Now, they'll want to move fast. And remember, you have to mirror them. You have to talk aggressively and loud, but answer their questions and go through your qualifying questions, the MCTP, and then gather the information. But if you just have them cut to the price, it is a waste of time. They might as well go see a realtor if that's what they want to do. So with the aggressive person, do not conform. Stop, break the pattern, and let them know I'm here to help you, but this is what we have to do. So replay this. Guys, you have to practice this. Do not practice on your sellers. You have to practice on your own and perfect it, and then start working with sellers on it. Okay, objection number 4 is just price. And I want you to understand, we are never going to win on price. I never want to win on the highest price as a wholesaler. Actually, I want the lowest price. I don't even hide it from anybody. And I tell all my sellers, I'm most likely not going to be your highest offer, but I'm going to be your best offer. And that's one of the lines I use. Now, when it comes to a price objection, number 1, go back and make sure your seller is qualified. If they are not motivated, meaning the house isn't motivated or the seller's not motivated, it doesn't matter what price you offer because it's never going to fly. And you're just dealing with the wrong customer. But say you have a highly motivated seller and you're close on price, but it's just not there. What do I do to move forward? Now, there's 2 trains of thoughts. The ones that are motivated, but their price is in so left field, like you almost like trying to wrap your, say they want $500,000, it's worth $250,000. You have to separate them from the asset. Now, I don't spend a lot of time and energy on it, but here's simply what I say to them. Mr. Seller, I can appreciate you want $500,000, but we have to see what your house is going to afford. We have to see what your property is going to afford. Do you mind if I do that? What I'm doing is, I know you need $500,000, but I need to see what your house can actually afford. That will let them know that, listen, I can only pay for what we have in front of us. And a lot of people have a wish list. If they have that, just use that separating statement and decide if you want to move forward with them. Now, the ones that are closer on price, it just means you have not sold them on the value of you being a wholesaler and solving their problem with the greatest amount of satisfaction of the seller. What do I mean? Here's what I always do. I always go back and repeat what the seller said to me. You said you want to be out of the house by the end of the year and you want to move to West Virginia to live with your mom. Am I correct? You said your goal was to get this done and you didn't want any games and you wanted certainty it's done. Am I correct? Absolutely. Okay. So listen, you want $115,000. I'm really at $100,000. And honestly, I think I'm kind of at my max number. And I know we're a little bit far apart, but listen, you're getting a service from us to make sure this is said and done. And I don't want you to lose out on this opportunity. Tell me, what is keeping you from working with me? Well, of course, Rick, it's the $15,000. I understand that. But I tell you what if I do this? Keep in mind, we're not including a realtor. And what if I could go ahead and cover all your closing costs? Now, my closing cost is just going to be the traditional transaction stuff, but I'm going to offer stuff. I'm not going to go up in price. I'm just going to offer a few more things. Now, this is for a deal where I don't have a cash buyer yet, and I know I got a good discount, but I can't do it. Now, if I already had a buyer lined up, I'm going to be more aggressive about this, and I'm going to play with it. Remember, you can always come back and give them more money. And matter of fact, a lot of times when you're at that 100,000, maybe they're at 110, 115, you guys are scared to walk away from the deal. But sometimes you have to give it a little bit of space. This is called detachment. So say I make that offer, I ask them, have I solved all your questions? Do you have any more questions? And I keep trial closing them and I can't get it done. Sometimes I go, I tell you what, Mr. Seller, I'm going to think about it a little bit, but let me know. I have some other houses I have to look at it. Give me a call and let me know if you change your mind. I would love to move forward because I can definitely meet your deadline and get this done. Now, I'm usually going to give them 24 hours. And that 24 hours, I'm going to go see if I can scrape up a cash buyer that'll pay more. And more importantly, I'm going to see if they reach back out to me. And here's the key. If they reach back out to you on a price, usually it winds up a good sign. Remember, it's always easy to call them back and go up in price. But if you overextend and overpay them, it's extremely difficult to unwind your price. So if you learn the art of detachment, it will fix a lot of your price issues. And make sure you always get to the root of your seller's problem by asking qualifying questions. And objection number 5 is competition, meaning they have other offers, they're meeting with realtors, other wholesalers. And a lot of you freak out over this. And I'm going to teach you a method that took me 10 years to learn, but man, does it work well. Now, this will work virtually. It's even more powerful if you do this local wholesaling, but here's how it goes. Hey, Rick, I would love to talk to you. I've already kind of given you a number, but I'm meeting with 3 other prospective cash buyers. And let me meet with them and I'll meet with you and I'll make a decision. And I go, that's great. I think that's a really smart decision. See, most of you fight it at this point. When are you meeting with the other sellers? Actually, tomorrow I'm meeting with the first one at 10. I'm meeting with you at 11 and then the other one's 12 and 1. And I go, I tell you what, can I just meet with you first? Sure. So the prospect switches around and they meet with you first. Now you're thinking, Rick, why do you want to meet with them first? I'm going to show you why. Because here's the reality of it. I'm going to meet with them first, have an amazing conversation. All I'm going to do is focus on rapport. I'm going to identify the house, do the qualifying questions. I'm not going to give them an offer. I'm going to be such a best friend to the seller. And at the end of that conversation, when I do it first, I'm going to say, listen, I think it's really smart you meet with other people. Why don't I do this? I'll swing by when you're done meeting with everybody, and then I'll help you compare apples to apples, and then you can see what is going to be the best offer for you. Does that sound fair? Yeah, why not? So I call it the first and last method, meaning I'm going to go first and I'm going to go last. Now, you do have to kill some time because a lot of times you have to wait around the corner in the parking lot. But when that last realtor or wholesaler is done with them, I go in last. And if you just go in and you've already befriended them, you got past that awkward meeting stage, they will tell you most likely what all the other 3 did, what they liked about it, the offers they liked, they didn't like, and then you can get down to it. And remember, I'm never going to give them the highest offer, but I'm going to give them the best offer. And how do I give them the best offer? I make sure I develop such a relationship with them. Once the relationship and trust is established, I'm night and day from the other 3 wholesalers and realtors. And if you understand that, if you can make a first impression and a last impression in a loving, supportive way, you can get great deals. Remember, if it's up to 4 people bidding on the house, you will never win. We will never win alone on price, so don't ever try to win alone on price. But you can win on relationships and you can out hustle all your competition. Remember, there's a lot of competition in wholesaling and realtors. The person that wants to help the seller out the most has the best probability of winning that deal. Don't ever forget that. Now I'm going to leave you 2 bonuses here real quick. So a lot of times when you guys meet with the seller and they say, listen, I got to get back to you because I got to talk to my wife, my brother, my sister, you kind of drop the ball. And the best way to prevent that, you have to meet with the decision makers, because maybe you present it to the wife and then she takes the cliff notes of what you said, presents it to her husband, and all she spits out is the price and what she thought of you. And that's not going to get you very far. So how do you prevent it? Always make sure you're meeting with the decision maker. You have to meet with the decision maker, because if they translate your offer, your presentation to their significant other, they're going to pick the parts out that they think is important, and it's usually not going to work out well. Number 2, whenever you're sitting and meeting with these sellers, you have to use their name multiple times. In fact, I'm here to tell you, you should use the seller's name at least 15 to 25 times while you sit down with them. Why? Because if I call your name out, say, Rick, so anybody watching this name Rick, they're going to snap their head. Why? It's so wired into you when someone calls your name. A stranger can yell your name out and you'll snap your head around. Your sellers are no different. Sellers love to hear their name. Make sure you get it right. Decide if you're going to use your first name or use like Mr. Ginn, however you want to do it. But by using the seller's name, it also does another little secret trick. You ready for this? It lets you know if they're paying attention. So every time you use your name, it redirects the head. So we use it with children. Why not use it with adults? It's the exact same thing. Guys, let me know in the comments which of these 5 objections you want a better handle, and are you going to use my suggestions, my 5 ideas to respond to them. The key to this is practice. You have to practice. You can't wing it, because once you practice and go through and you decide which word choices you're going to use, you'll start to vary them. You'll get confidence. And what happens when these 5 objections come up, you can, price, third party. And you just go, okay, now I know where to pull from my head. Instead of you going, I don't know. Use the skills we teach you here at Flip with Rick. I got 21 years experience, guys. Put it in your back pocket. It will cut your learning curve so short. I'm telling you, I wish somebody grabbed me like this when I was young, but I had to cut my teeth for 7 years figuring out what to say to sellers. Don't make the same mistake I did. And guys, if you got value from this video, do me a favor. Smash that like button, hit that subscribe button. This is Rick Ginn. You have an awesome day. I'll see you in the next video. See you guys.